If you're working a full-time job and a demanding one, the kind where you come home and the couch is going to win even before you take your shoes off, and you're trying to learn data analytics on the side, this video is going to be for you. One of my community members is a respiratory therapist, works long shifts at a children's hospital, and wants to break into healthcare data analytics. And she asked me for help learning Excel. And then inside that message, she also added, and I don't have the motivation to get it done. So I hear this version all the time, and I'm not going to give your typical motivation or discipline speech because I had this exact problem. And for years, I've been a top performer at a Fortune 500 healthcare company, but there was a period of time where I couldn't get myself to do the work, let alone do the side work I needed to upskill and build a business. So I'm going to show you exactly how I solved it, the system that I built with AI to make motivation optional, and the one change that helped me more than any productivity hack, and the simplest possible first step. So simple that it's going to make you laugh, but it worked for me. So for those of you new here, I'm a business analyst consultant at a top Fortune 500 healthcare company. Nearly 15 years in healthcare analytics. I've sat on hiring panels, I built AI agents, and I also run a community called the AI Healthcare Analyst Lab. So what you're about to see in this video is the kind of coaching that happens inside. So link is in the description below if you're interested. So on the outside, it looks like I have my work figured out and I have it all together. But I'm going to share something that I've never shared yet. When COVID hit and we went fully remote at my day job, what eventually happened was we became designated permanently remote. We never went to the office. They actually sold our office. But that transition, I hit a wall. And this wasn't a technical wall, this was a motivation wall. And it was understandable with what was happening with COVID at the time, getting used to working at home. But I just didn't reach the same level of productivity that I did prior to that being in the office. And it took a while to try to figure it out. When there were deadlines, things were easy. When there were urgent technical issues that needed fixing, no problem. The motivation was there because the urgency was there. But the gaps in between those deadlines, the proactive time, the time where you need to learn something new, the time where you need to get ahead on a future project, or do the work that separates you from a good performer to a great one that gets promoted. I couldn't get myself to do that work anymore. I would get distracted because I was home. I would walk to the fridge for a snack. I would take a lot more breaks. I wouldn't be proactive. I would just deliver what was needed. My work was mostly automated at that time. I didn't need to do more, so I didn't. And for a period of time, that's exactly what I did. I did the minimum, the expected output, and nothing above it. And this was confusing to me because I am the type of person who likes to go above and beyond. I love data analytics. I love learning. I love getting better. That's just who I am. But the couch was winning. Laying down was winning because the office had given me something. It gave me an invisible structure. People working around me, the ambient accountability of being visibly present, being in a space that was only for work. Now all of that changed and all of that was gone. That internal motivation by itself, now it wasn't enough. So if you're watching this and you're thinking that you're going through the same thing, so stay till the end because because the answer that I found wasn't the one that I expected. Because I tried a lot of different things. I tried everything that you would expect. I tried to be more disciplined. I tried to build better habits. I tried to schedule my days tighter. I tried to find my why. All the standard advice using psychology, all of it. Some of it worked for a week, maybe for two, then it stopped. And here's the uncomfortable truth that I had to face was that motivation is fickle. It's based on your energy, your mental capacity in that exact moment. Some days it's there, some days it's not. And when I was building my entire productivity around that resource, my motivation, it's inherently unreliable. And from an analytics perspective, it's a design flaw. I was asking the wrong thing. I kept asking, how do I get motivated? But the better question that I should have been asking was, how do I design a system where motivation is optional, where I don't rely on motivation? And that shift changed everything. And honestly, working with AI was one of the biggest things that helped me refine the system and get me to where I'm at today. AI has been trained on all of these productivity systems, this data, the psychology, the theory behind the motivation. But I didn't use AI to find the system that works in general for the average person. I used AI to interview me about my patterns, about when I focus, when I don't focus, what environments help me, what kills my momentum. And then I designed a system around my data, not someone else's framework that I'm forcing myself to fit into, but something that is my system customized and built for my patterns. So what happened from the outside looks like I found my motivation again because I started to deliver again as a top performer at work. And I was also building this YouTube channel and then a community and a business on the side. And then the consistent output almost every day. But I didn't find the motivation. I just made it so I didn't have to rely on it. I made it irrelevant. So I'm going to let me walk you through what actually changed and not the theory, but what actually happened. Because before I touched any system, any app, any framework, what I did was very simple. I fixed my desk. If you look at my desk right now, this is the first thing that I fixed. Because in the office, my physical setup was handled for me. We had comfortable chairs in a very nice office. But at home, I was working on a desk where I was uncomfortable and I didn't even realize this was the problem. I was literally working on my laptop, my work laptop, and I didn't even connect it to like my one monitor, and I was just hunched over, and it's going to be hard to just physically work longer hours and get and lose myself in the enjoyment of my work if I'm physically uncomfortable. So what I was thinking, and I didn't even realize this, that that was the problem. I wasn't thinking that my chair was bad. I wasn't thinking that I can't focus. I was just thinking that I couldn't focus. The root cause was physical. So what I did was I upgraded my chair. I repositioned my monitors so that my neck was no longer strained. I got better keyboards, a better mouse, better internet, a laptop stand. If you see that in the corner, I have a laptop stand now so that I have three monitors here with my laptop in the corner as a fourth monitor. And each change was small, but each one removed a piece of friction between sitting down and sustaining my focus. So the principle here is simple. If where you're going to do the work doesn't make it easier to do the work, you're already starting from a disadvantage. You're already spending mental capacity and willpower on comfort that should just be present on using it for the task. On the days when home focus was still impossible, what I would do was I would just change my environment as well. I would go to the library. I would be surrounded by other people, creating a distraction-free environment. So the environment was what I changed initially to do the motivational work my brain wouldn't do alone. Now, the next biggest surprise was sleep. And it sounds obvious to some people, but I was a competitive hip hop dancer in college. Practices ended late. So it could be anywhere from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. So I got used to functioning on 4 hours of sleep. That became my normal because I thought that I could just keep carrying that pattern for years, which I did. And because that meant I had more hours to work. But it doesn't account for everything. When I started tracking my productivity and my mood against how much I slept, and I mean really tracking it, doing it by the minute, daily, for months and months at a time, the data showed something that I didn't expect. On 4 hours of sleep, I could function better than most people, but in comparison to what my actual output could be if I got more sleep, my focus was garbage. I couldn't sustain deep work. And here's the thing that connected to the motivation problem is starting tasks was harder because I was fighting a sleep deficit. And that sleep deficit doesn't feel like I'm tired. It feels like I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to do this. I just want to lay down. And it feels like low motivation. But for me, it wasn't. It was just biology and just being tired and having a lack of sleep. Now, when I started to work on this, because I heard one of the first things for peak performance habit is just to get more sleep. So then I just tested that. So on 6 to 7 hours, my focus quality dramatically got higher. I could work 1 to 2 hours straight, 3 hours, and produce better output. It was easier also to start because I was rested. The motivation that I've been trying to manufacture was just the rest that I had been denying myself. So once I got the rest, it was easier for me just to start. So fewer hours of high quality focus produce more output and more quality value than the hours of exhausted effort that I was putting in previously. And that was one of the biggest productivity gains that I've had in my life, was just sleeping more. And then I found my deep focus pattern, which is also known as the psychological state of flow. So here is one of the things that I hate the Pomodoro technique. It works for some people, it doesn't work for me. So for those of you who don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, it's a productivity schedule framework where basically you work 25 minutes of work, 5 minute break, and then you repeat. And then once you hit 4 cycles of that, then you take a longer break and then you keep going. Works great for a lot of people, but I tracked my time for months and I've done this and I personally just am annoyed of the technique because Pomodoro was killing my productivity. Because at 25 minutes, this is actually when I start to hit my internal stride. This is when I start to enter in that psychological state of flow, which is just deep focus, immersive, fulfilling, where time just flies and you can just do a lot of work. So the best work for me happens after that 25-minute mark. But that's when Pomodoro tells you to stop. You have to take a break. And then that break rips me out of flow. And it actually makes me really annoyed because then I have to like try to get back into it. And then I spend the next 25 minutes again getting that energy just to get back to where I was inside that deep focus. So that's actually why I hate Pomodoro. So I built the opposite. Now I have long uninterrupted blocks of 60 to 90 minutes at minimum. To be honest, I've gone 6 hours and longer straight on coding sessions because I enjoy it and I just get immersed in the puzzle and the building aspect. And that's not the norm for me, and I'm not saying that you should do that, but it's a skill that I've trained over time when you look at focus as a skill. But the point is, the system has to match your own focus patterns and your own biology and how you function. So you won't know yours until you start tracking and you start experimenting. So one of the things that I did to figure this out was I had AI interview me about the times and periods of my life where it was easier to focus. AI is great at recognizing patterns. And then what I did on top of this was I designed a sustainability layer. I identified a pattern in myself. So what I would do is I would push hard, I would sleep less, I would extend deep work sessions, and then eventually burn out, crash, and then lose months at a time. I'd lose a month, 2 months, 3 months of where I would just not want to do any side work. I would not want to upskill. I would not want to build anything in the business. This was like previous iterations of business. I'd be trying to start 3 businesses at one time and then all of that managing. And then I just burn out and not want to do anything. Instead, and this is probably familiar to a lot of you who feel that burnout and that repeating pattern. So what I did was I just tried to figure out what are my burnout signals. For me specifically, I started to notice that I would start to experience a mental fog where it was harder to cognitively think of things and retain the information that I'm writing or that I'm trying to recall. And then I would also start to feel a physical throb inside my head. It's not a headache, but it's like the precursor to a headache, or that when you start to think too much and then your head starts to throb because of that. Or that's just one of the things that I noticed for myself. So, regardless of how much or how little I worked for the day, that's my sign to stop. And for me, recovery has no timer now. I don't take a 15-minute break and then force myself back. I rest until the throbbing is gone and my mental clarity returns. Allowing myself to rest without that timer has made me significantly more productive than when I tried to force myself into those time blocks, especially as a creative. The flexibility is the feature. And then for some people, that lack of structure, they would hate. because it would kill their consistency because they need that type of structure. But for me, it's what created the consistency because the rigid systems and the time blocking burnt me out. And don't get me wrong, I still time block, but I move things around and I have what I need to get done, but it's flexible. Yes, I still have the tasks that I need to get done, but it's flexible in the time slots that I get them done. And then I can rest as much as I need to. The system that I described is also a solo system. So the hardest part about learning something new, like Excel or upskilling with AI, is, or especially when you're switching careers, is that you're usually doing it alone. When AI was brand new and overwhelming for me, I wanted to learn it, but I couldn't get myself to also just learn it by myself. I would just get bored. So what I would also do is I found a study partner, a friend. We met twice a week for 4 hours each session. The first half, we would go through AI courses and fundamentals and lectures. We would take a break. And then the second half, we would do hands on project learning, which we both found fun through just the building. So then it was a way for us to front load the boring stuff because we wanted to get through all of that to get to the fun stuff. So we did that for over a year. So the commitment was external. This time it wasn't internal. I didn't have to rely on motivation. I just needed to not want to let my friend down and know that he was leaning on me to be there. One of the things that we also did was we built in rewards. So say that we finished 3 study modules, we would get ice cream or some type of snack. Say we wrapped up a major project milestone, we'd watch the basketball game or a movie. It was just small, consistent rewards, but it worked. And then the science also backs us up, showing that rewards go a long way in building habit and consistency. So we use that deliberately. So for that year, I was able to pass my AWS AI practitioner certification and then build AI projects along the way for my portfolio. So the lesson is, if you can't motivate yourself to learn alone, don't learn alone. Find one person, set a time, show up, build in the rewards. So you don't need a community of thousands. You just need a person who's going to be there with you on a Thursday at 7 p.m. And if you don't have that person, that's what I'm trying to build the community for, so that we can have a shared community where we're all building together, where we're all holding each other accountable, members posting their progress. So then you can get feedback and the support that you need. And let's give you how to start. So here is your start. And I mean this actual start, not just like a motivational speech. So when I was at my lowest motivation, when I was sitting down to trying to do the extra work that felt impossible, I didn't commit to an hour. I didn't plan a study schedule. I actually did plan a study schedule. I just couldn't keep to it. I committed just to sitting at my desk for 5 minutes. I tried to do the easiest task that I could get myself to do. And that was just sit at this chair and look at my computer for 5 minutes. And if it just happened that that 5 minutes was just me staring at the screen, that was a win. And that's what happened a lot of the times. And as ridiculous as this sounds, because it is, but it's why it worked for me, because I made it so small that I could get it done regardless of how I felt. So that 5 minutes sometimes turned into 15, sometimes it turned into 30, sometimes it turned into just 5 minutes again of staring at the screen. And that was okay. Because over time, that 5 minutes became a routine and that routine became habit. So today, my minimum is now 90 minutes, but it all started with 5. What matters is you're starting to build the habit of getting closer to doing the work and being more consistent. And then through all of that reps, you can start building a system and recognizing the patterns for you to do your best work. So just remember, the motivation is going to follow the system that you're building, so that eventually you don't have to rely on motivation and you can just show up and work the system that works for you and not the other way around. Now, I just want to hear from you. Drop a comment on what's your version of the couch winning. So this is for my member and for everyone else. What's the thing that you know you should be doing, but just can't get yourself to start? Be specific, because the more specific you are, the easier it is to design around it. I read each and every comment and I will respond and help you design that system and break into healthcare analytics and data analytics in general. So until then, I'll see you in the next video. Query responsibly and watch this next video.